More than 75 years have passed. A lifetime. Yet, some stories refuse to fade into the quiet pages of history. They linger in the public consciousness, whispered from one generation to the next, becoming more legend than reality. The case of the Black Dahlia is one such story. It is a dark thread woven into the very fabric of Los Angeles, a city of dreams that, for one young woman, became the setting for an unimaginable nightmare. Her name was Elizabeth Short, and her murder remains one of America's most infamous and haunting unsolved mysteries. For decades, the trail has been cold, false confessions, dead-end leads. But now, something has changed. More than 75 years after one of America's most infamous unsolved murders, investigators believe they may have uncovered something extraordinary. Could modern science finally reveal what happened to Elizabeth Short? Or is this another false lead in one of history's greatest mysteries? Tonight, we follow every clue. To understand the mystery of the Black Dahlia, we must first look past the myth and discover the woman at its center. Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924, in Hyde Park, a neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts. She was the third of 5 daughters born to Cleo and Phoebe May Short. Her early life was marked by the economic hardships of the Great Depression. In 1930, his car was found abandoned on the Charlestown Bridge, and the family believed he had taken his own life. Life for the young Elizabeth was not easy. She was plagued by severe asthma and bronchitis from a young age. At 19, she decided to move across the country to live with the father she had thought dead, who had resurfaced in California. She left Medford, Massachusetts, and traveled to Vallejo, California in late 1942. The reunion with her father was short-lived and fraught with tension. By January 1943, after just months, Elizabeth had moved out. The allure of California, specifically Hollywood, proved too strong to resist. Like so many others of her generation, she was drawn by the promise of fame and a life less ordinary. She was beautiful, and she knew it. She believed her striking looks, pale skin, blue eyes, jet black hair, could be her ticket to stardom. Her ambition was to become an actress, a dream shared by countless young women who flocked to Los Angeles in the post-war era. But the reality she found was a far cry from the glamorous fantasy. Her life in Los Angeles was a constant struggle. She moved between cheap hotels, rooming houses, and apartments of acquaintances. She was known to date many men, often servicemen passing through the city. For a woman with few resources, these relationships were often a means of survival. A free meal, a place to stay for the night. This image of a lonely, aspiring actress navigating the often predatory landscape of post-war Hollywood is crucial to understanding the final, tragic chapter of her life. The last confirmed sighting of Elizabeth Short by someone who knew her occurred on January 9, 1947. She had been staying in downtown Los Angeles at the Biltmore Hotel. A man named Robert Red Manley, a married salesman she had been dating, reported that he dropped her off at the hotel lobby that afternoon. He was the last person known to have a personal connection with her to see her alive. After he left, she seemingly vanished. What happened in the 6 days between January 9th and January 15th is the central mystery of the Black Dahlia case. This period is often referred to as the missing week. Investigators believe that it was during this week that she met her killer. She was held captive somewhere, subjected to horrific torture, and ultimately murdered. The morning of January 15, 1947, began like any other in Leimert Park, a quiet, developing suburb in South Los Angeles. Betty Bersinger was out for a morning walk with her 3-year-old daughter. It was just after 10 o'clock. In a vacant lot, overgrown with weeds, lay what she thought was a discarded mannequin, broken in two at the waist. As she drew closer, a horrifying realization dawned. This was no mannequin. She called the Los Angeles Police Department. That single phone call marked the official beginning of one of America's most disturbing murder investigations. Frantic, muffled phone call from witness. When homicide detectives arrived, the full, calculated horror of the crime became apparent. The victim's body had been severed at the waist. The two halves were positioned about a foot apart, posed in an intentional, almost surreal manner. Her face had been brutally mutilated, incisions slicing from the corners of her mouth toward her ears, creating a grotesque and permanent smile. What was most striking to the seasoned investigators was the complete lack of blood. The body had been drained of blood entirely before being brought to the lot. This was a critical and immediate clue. It meant that the vacant lot on Norton Avenue was not the primary crime scene. Elizabeth Short had not been murdered here. Identifying the victim was the first priority. They sent the victim's fingerprints to the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. Within an hour, the prints came back with a match. They belonged to Elizabeth Short. Suddenly, the anonymous victim had a name. As police began their methodical work, a different kind of storm was brewing. It was the press that would give the case its unforgettable name, dubbing the dark-haired victim the Black Dahlia. This media frenzy quickly spiraled out of control and, in many ways, began to interfere with the official investigation. The intense media coverage had another, more insidious effect. It prompted a deluge of false confessions, diverting resources and time away from legitimate leads. On January 24th, a man claiming to be the killer sent a package to the Los Angeles Examiner containing Elizabeth Short's personal effects. Most disturbingly, the package included a note, its letters meticulously cut from newspapers. The killer, it seemed, wanted to communicate. The package itself, like the purse found earlier, had been carefully wiped with gasoline to remove any fingerprints, demonstrating a chilling level of forensic awareness. In the desperate search for the Black Dahlia's killer, LAPD investigators compiled a list of dozens of potential suspects. A handful of names rose to the top of the official list. Anyone who had more than a passing acquaintance with Elizabeth Short was scrutinized. Yet the evidence was purely circumstantial. The trail, which had seemed so hot in the initial days, was rapidly growing cold. For decades, the investigation lay dormant. Then, the story took an unexpected turn. Steve Hodel, a former LAPD homicide detective, began his own investigation. While going through his late father's belongings, he discovered a small photo album. Inside were two pictures of a dark-haired young woman. This discovery sparked a decades-long obsession. Most damningly, Steve Hodel uncovered FBI files revealing that in 1950, the LAPD had bugged his father's home. On the secret recordings, Dr. Hodel could be heard making a chilling statement. His investigation pointed to a specific location, the Sowden house. Steve Hodel became convinced that this house was the place where Elizabeth Short was held, tortured, and ultimately murdered. In 2012, a new team of investigators, inspired by Hodel's work, gained access to the Sowden house. Their primary tool was a cadaver dog named Buster. In the soil of a small, dirt-filled area in the basement, Buster gave a positive alert, indicating the dog had detected the scent of human remains. Following the dog's alerts, the team took several soil samples from the specific locations. The goal was to determine what, exactly, the dog had smelled. Investigators claimed the tests confirmed human decomposition in the samples. At the time of this documentary, these findings have not been confirmed by law enforcement and should be treated as investigative claims rather than established facts. However, they could not extract a viable DNA profile. Without DNA, you cannot link the decomposition specifically to Elizabeth Short. The finding is tantalizing but not definitive. The quest to solve cold cases has been revolutionized by modern forensic science. This technology has the power to reach back in time. If a verifiable sample of the killer's DNA could be found, perhaps on the envelopes of the taunting letters, it could change everything. However, the path to a DNA solution is fraught with immense challenges. Evidence from 1947 was handled by numerous people, and key items were wiped with gasoline, a solvent that would almost certainly destroy viable genetic material. This is the great paradox of the Black Dahlia investigation in the 21st century. We possess the scientific tools to solve the crime, but we may lack the raw material to analyze. The Black Dahlia case remains officially unsolved. The confirmed facts are stark and brutal, a sprawling, chaotic search for a phantom. Whether this latest discovery changes history depends on future forensic testing and official investigation. It is essential to remember the real person at its heart, a young woman whose life was stolen from her in the most brutal way imaginable. The mystery forces us to confront the limits of what we can know and the persistence of what we can't. Sometimes the greatest mystery isn't what we know. It's what we're still searching to discover.